Welcome to Have a Happy Arty Time. My name's Janette and I'm back with this wonderful project of painting sunflowers on a jelly printed background. Let's begin. As usual, I have the drawing there for you if you would like it. Just email me on my email, it's down in the description, and I'll send that to you. Okay, let's begin. First of all, I'm going to place some yellow onto the jelly plate. As you know, my yellow lid is broken, but it's keeping very well with the Glad wrap and a rubber band around it. So I get some yellow down. I'm going to do a little bit over here as well, just to make another print. With my brayer, I'm just going to roll out a plain yellow background on both of these jelly plates. Now I'm using some of these lovely little fine grasses that have flown into my yard. You can see a little bit of grass there that was on the plate, but I'm not worried about that, so I'm going to sit that down here. This little one over here, another little one there, and place this down here. They are very fine. You can use anything for this. You could cut out some with paper or just use them as is. So now I'm going to get my piece of paper, cut down to the A5 size, place it in my registration frame there, give a light rub over, and do the same on this plate here. Just giving a light roll over. Okay, pulling that print up. And getting a lovely print. You can see a little bit of colour left over from making this. That's okay, that's fine, because we're going to be putting some darker colour over the top. And just do the same with this one. And the same here. Now I'm going to take off these little delicate pieces of grass. Just putting them to the side. And I'm going to roll out a mixture of light blue, dark blue, bright green and an aqua green. So just little bits on the plate. Just very light coverage of this dark, a little bit of the green, and our beautiful colour, the aqua here. Just pop it over there. I don't want my aqua to get lost, but it probably will. Okay, so I'll roll out a bit of my aqua first in there so we can keep a bit, and then roll this here. It's okay if a little bit of leaf is left on your plate, that's fine. Just mix that in on the other plate here. I don't want to mix this too much, so I'm just going to go with that now. Roll it off on my roll-off sheet. Place my grasses back on. Okay, and also my grasses back on this little one. I'll just throw him on. Can't see them, getting lost with them. There we go. Okay. Now I'm getting my sheet that we did with the yellow and I'm going to place it down on here. And the same for this one with the yellow. I'm going to place it somewhat in the same area. I'm going to get my baron and just give a really gentle but firm press down, making sure that I get in all these areas. And seeing if we can't pull up all that paint. Okay, we'll pull this one up. And we have a very interesting background here. I just love it. So I'm going to place that to the side. And I'm going to pull this one up. And again, a lovely background for what we're wanting to do. And I'll take off our little pieces of plant and store them away, keep them till next time. I think they'll last. Okay, and I'll just get the print and place it back down in there. Doesn't have to go in the same spot. I'm just going to try and lift up those little pieces there. And do the same with this one. They may or may not pick up. Okay, Lovely. I used some baby oil on my plate before and I can just see how it's coming through and moving my paint around a little bit more. But still, I like that, and it's going to work with what we need today for painting on our beautiful sunflowers. So I will let these two dry now, and I will be back with how to transfer our images over onto these and paint in our sunflowers. Now to transfer our image onto the Gelli plate printed background. And how I do this is I take my picture and I just cut around it, not precisely, just into an area that depicts the image. So it's very simple, just a little bit in and around, and just getting in a bit closer where I need to. I know that that bottom doesn't belong there. Just cutting that off. Now I have my image cut out and I turn it around, and I do this the old-fashioned way. I just grab my lead pencil and I just press fairly firmly into the areas. You can go all over it, you don't have to be precise, but I'm just placing it where I'm going to draw on top when I turn it around the other way, so that I'm able to transfer the lead pencil onto my image. So holding it up to the light, yes, I've got coverage over every area that I need. So I have my background here ready, and I'm going to place this down here on the edge of that and take a little bit of masking tape that I've already taken a lot of the sticky off by placing it down on some paper and re-pulling it off, just so it doesn't tear anything here. So I'm just going to sit that on there. Got two pieces, just going to sit that one on here. I'll just fold that one under. Do the same for this one, just fold him under. So by having the tape stuck down here, it allows me to pick this up and have a peek under there to make sure it's transferring, and also I can move my sheet of paper around as I'm drawing. So I'll start transferring the image now. Okay, so I can see my image on here, and I will take this off now and go ahead and redraw over that to bring it out a little bit. So I need to get up quite close to be able to draw my image on darker now. So I'm going to do that off screen and I will be back. So I have my transferred image on now, and I've re-darkened the lines with some pencil. I'm sorry I had to do it off camera, but I had to get my face up close to do it as I'm short-sighted, so I took my glasses off, and if I were to do that on camera, my head comes into the frame. So I've popped it back out and done it that way. Now I'm going to paint some gesso inside of my picture, and I have some gesso here. It's fairly thick, so I'm just going to add a little bit of water. I took it off the lid of the container. It's just a cheap white gesso. So add a little bit of water here and get my paintbrush, just thin that bit down in there to a nice consistency. So I only want a thin coverage because I like a little bit of the background coming through. It gives a great effect. And I'm just going to paint over. So I'll speed this process up for you so that you're not stuck here with me going slow with this, and finish this off. If your gesso becomes too dry again, just add that little bit more water. Just do little bits at a time. And I'm just using a round brush here so I can get into those pointed areas. Gesso is great because it does dry quickly, and watercolour works very well over it. If it gets too thick, I just take my finger while it's wet and take a little bit off, smooth it down. Okay, so we'll leave that gesso to dry now and I'll be back with the watercolour to continue on. So I'm back now with the gesso completed on my drawing, and I'm going to now add the watercolour to finish this beautiful image off, and some gel pens. Just putting a little bit of water into my sections. Getting my watercolour brush. Now I'm going to start with light, so I'm going to get into this yellow here, a bit of yellow here. I've got two yellows going, a cadmium yellow and a lemon yellow. So I'm just going to place this over the gesso. I'm not going to press too hard, just lightly. And I'm just going to let it do its own thing. Leaving that there, I'll just turn this around. Nothing too neat here, we're wanting this sort of grungier effect. Okay, so just looking at the inside of our sunflowers here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of burnt sienna just into there lightly. Adding a little bit more. Looking at our green here, so I'm just going to add the green in now. Just in strokes, you can see it separate a little bit on the gesso. That's what I'm wanting. So just adding my lighter green now. I forgot I didn't have that one ready. So we can see that go in. It's a very yellow green, which is wonderful. Now looking back into our petals now, I'm going to add that little bit of orange that we can see. Just in one little area of each petal. So just go into the underneath. So it's putting it on, it's taking it off, putting it on, and we'll just very slowly build these layers. We'll let that dry there so that we can get some highlights in there as well. And I'm just going to use another little bit of brown here for our centers. So just lightly popping that in, letting it do its thing. And that'll start to dry. I'm going to add a little bit darker green, and I'll just make that up in the center of the well here. So just add a little bit of green into there, and I'll just add a little tiny bit of black, and then I'll see what color we get. A little bit more black. See what color we get. Oh, there we go. And I might add a little bit more green to that, a little bit of bluey green there. That's better. So I've got that colour on there now. Now I just want to choose an area for my darks. So I'm just going to come down in under or along there. And I'm not going to put it everywhere. Just a little bit of dark down in here. And then in our leaf, just mark where some of the lines may go. It's just hints of things. Just adding bits of contrast and just keep going over that. Now I'm not being precise here in any way. I'm just adding in some colour. And I'll be able to add the highlights back on in these areas. Just looking a bit grungy now, which is what we're wanting. That's what we're wanting. Lovely. Looks a little bit of a mess as we first begin. That's just brave enough to plop on colour in all those areas. Okay, we're going to let that one dry. Whilst this is drying, if I don't tip it up, it won't run off. I'll just see, might be able to take a bit of colour from there. And I'm just going to get that little bit of dark. Now, when I do the centres, I'm just going to daub some colour and see what happens. So I may have to let it dry a little bit further, but just daubing in a little bit of dark colour around. When I first started painting a long time ago now, I thought we just painted with strokes. My artwork got better when I started to relax and just daub and dash and look at painting more as mark making, and it really started to work for me. So just making marks here. If anything, we just dry off our brush, have a dry brush, and we just pick up that bit of colour that's where we don't want it. And I will, as I say, have to let this dry now so that we can start to do our finishing touches. You can see we've just got a little area in there we might add a bit of colour to on the side. Okay, so letting this dry now. Okay, so our image is dry now, and before I do any more with it, I'm going to outline it in black gel pen and see how far I want to come up with the colour. Once it's outlined and the white is added as well, I may not want to come any further forward with that colour. So this is going to help me balance my colour and see where I want to be with it. So just starting with a Artline Superfine 0.2 pen, and we'll see what we get from there. It may be too fine, or it may just give us what we want. And I think, yeah, that's giving us something nice. Not too thick, just outlining. Not too worried about staying within the lines or anything, just giving this a lovely pen and wash look. And again, not worrying too much where these go. If we make a mistake, we just make a new line. It never ceases to amaze me how well copy paper can stand up to everything we do with it in mixed media. It's just wonderful. I love the thinness of the copy paper. I did watercolour for many years, and the watercolour paper is so heavy, and I just love this. Acrylic backgrounds, gesso on top, watercolour. It's great. So I'm going to add some black lines now along these little areas. Just put in some little seed heads at the end. Not too neat. Just connect them if I see areas that aren't connected. Just finish it down. And we'll put in the little veins on the leaves. Again, just lightly. Okay, now we'll grab the white gel pen before we darken anything, and we'll see how we go with that one. I have one that's nearly empty and one that's full, and I never know which one's which. This one has some in it. So I'm just going to give some highlights and do a few things same and follow around on the opposite side of our little branches. And I'm not going to be doing anything perfectly. If the pen doesn't sort of work, if it's just dots and dashes that it's marking, sometimes they get a bit dry. That's okay. Don't want to get too perfect with this at all. Okay, just knock it back a bit with your finger if it starts to come out too much. Pressing really lightly with the gel pen so it doesn't give me full lines. Knock it back a bit with our fingers, rub that off. Okay, I'm really liking this. Now I need to add some dark into the flowers to see what we do here, and then our highlights on those flowers. So I'm just going to get my paintbrush again, and in the middle I had some green in this one. I'll just quickly make up a little black, so that's still darker, so that's good. So I'm just going to add a little bit of black again and just see how we go with this. I'm not going to add too much water, but I am just going to dab it around again. Just dabbing it in off my brush, letting it do whatever it wants to do itself. Now all of our mono prints come out differently. They don't come out the same, but it gives us a wonderful opportunity to see how different each piece can be. I just love it. Okay, so I'm going to add some more black now to darken this up. A little dab on there. Okay, it's darker. And I just want to get in closer to here now. And I can see now it'd be nice to have a little bit more yellow in there. Place a little bit more of the lemon yellow on the image with a little bit of water mixed in, and just give some highlights here. A little bit brighter here. Beautiful. I love using the gesso because it helps with that sort of grey effect underneath. I love how it's not too bright and bold. Add a little bit more dark up against these. I'm really loving this. Let this dry. You can dry it with a hairdryer, and I might do that now so I can come straight back and we'll finish this off. Okay, now I'm thinking I'm going to be mixing up my white gouache. I like a little bit thicker line, so I'm just going to put some water into that. I can see now looking at it I want to add some more orange there as well, but I'm going to add these highlights in first and go from there. So just a little bit of highlight around the top of the petals, I think. Blend them out with my finger. If I take too much colour away, I will simply add it back in. Just gives more of a vintage look using that gesso somehow. Okay, and we know we've got a few little highlights in the centre of this, and I'll darken around the edge. Just block it back with my finger. Same with this. We'll add some darks in between it and put a little bit of highlight in the other sunflower. And you can make yours as dark or as light as you'd like. It's each artist's preference. Okay, a little bit more orange now, just coming in here again. And I think we're just about done. Except for our centres. There we go. And I just love it. I just love it. Okay, so into this centre bit, get a little bit of our black going, get a little bit of our brown. We want to really get a dark going in there now. Looking awfully much like the same as we've had. So a little bit more black. That's darker. So I'm just going to get in here now. A few dobs and dashes. A little bit down here. Let's move some of that gel pen around into my leaves. Okay, so I've got a little bit of work just to do around this little fella now. Okay, so I'm going to give this a go. I'm not sure. Might not be what I want. There's a little bit of a line down in there with the gel pen just coming out of there. So I'm going to leave it there, friends, and I'm loving the finished product. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. Thank you so much for sharing this journey with me in making these sunflowers. And remember, have a happy arty time. Stay safe. Bye for now.